we are going to deal with the poem The Whitsun Weddings by Philip Larkin. And then Philip Larkin is a poet who always deals with the theme of mortality, love, etc., marriage, etc. And then in this theme, we study about the Whitsun Sunday, like the seventh Sunday after Easter, where people, especially those of lower economic class, they get married by, because that day the British government have relaxed the taxes of, they don't have to pay the marriage tax. So most of the people gets married on that day. And then in this poem, what we see is that our poet, that is Philip Larkin, is on the way to London, and then he comes across this couples who board the train. That Whitsun, I was late getting away. Not till about 1:20 on the sunlit Saturday did my three-quarters empty train pulled out. So he got into the train on Saturday by the evening. All windows down, all cushions hot, all sense of being in a hurry gone. So he has shut all the windows and all, and then he's quietly seated. We ran behind the backs of the houses, crossed a street of blinding windscreens, smelt the fish dog, thence the river's level drifting breath began, bird sky and Lincolnshire and water meet. So he's describing about all the descriptions of all what he's seeing sitting in the train all afternoon. Although the heat, all the tall heat that slept for miles inland, a slow and stopping curve southwards we kept. Wide farms went by, short shadowed cattle, canals with floating of industrial froth, a hothouse is greenhouse, flashed uniquely, hedges dipped and rose, and now and then a smell of grass. So he's seeing all these images, all these things he's seeing as he's seated in the train, like the afternoon. So he probably he got into the train in the afternoon. Displays the reek of button carriage cloth until the next town, new and nondescript, approached with acres of dismantled cars. So he, a new town they passed, then they passed an area where acres of dismantled cars were being put, etc. At first, I didn't notice what a noise the weddings made. Each station that we stopped at, sun destroys the interest of what's happening in the shade, and down the long, cool platforms, whoops and skulls I took for porters larking with the mails. So then he didn't notice the kind of noise that is being heard, a kind of wailing sound, and he thought it to be the sound that the porters are making. They are making some merry, he thought. And he went on reading and went on reading. Once we started, though, we passed them grinning and pomaded girls in parodies of fashion, heels and wheels, all posed irresolutely watching us go. So in the station he could find many girls who were standing wearing well dressed and all, as if out to the end of an event, waving goodbye to something that survived it. So at the end of an event, someone who has survived it, as though waving to them. Struck, I leaned more promptly out next time. So next station when I reached, I was quite curious, and saw it all again in different terms. The fathers with broad belts under their suits and seeming disreputable foreheads, mothers loud and fat, and uncles shouting smut, talking in a very disrespectful manner. And then the perms, like people who are girls and all, have made curls with chemicals and all. The nylon gloves and the jewelry substitutes, the lemons, mauves and olive orchards. So these pigments, they can see the girls who are there, they all are dressed up in different colors, marked off the girls unreally from the rest. Yes, from cafes and banquet halls, up yards and bunding dressed coach party annexes, the wedding days were coming to an end. So the wedding day is coming to an end. Whitsun wedding, the wedding, it's already Sunday, and the wedding day is coming to an end. All down the line, fresh couples climbed abroad. So these fresh couples started climbing abroad. The rest people stood around the carriage, and then the last confetti and advice were thrown. So they threw these colored papers, like how we throw flowers, they are throwing colored papers, and then lots of advices and all were said as they were getting into the train. And as we moved, each way seemed to define just what it was. It's so departing. Children frowned at something dull. Fathers had never known success are so huge and wholly farcical. So parents, father and all seems to be very much proud, and the young boys were very dull because they were very sad that they are departing. The secret, like a happy, the woman shared the secret like a happy funeral. So marriage is compared to a happy funeral here. See, now in this moment and all, when he's describing them, there is a kind of mockery in his tone, because he is a person who disapproves marriage. While girls gripping their handbags tighter stared at a religious wounding causing physical injury. Of course, marriage, about the human being broken, all those things are being discussed. Free at last and loaded with the sum of all this, so we hurry towards London, shuffling gouts of steam. So they are, all of them are heading towards London, and these are the things that they see. Now fields were building plots and poplars cast. Poplars are plants. Then long shadows over major roads, and for some 50 minutes that in time would seem just long enough to settle hats and say, I nearly died. So all the married couples were there in the carriage. A dozen marriages got underway. They watched the landscape sitting side by side. These couples, they started watching the landscape sitting side by side. An Odeon went past, cinema went past, a cooling tower went past, and someone running up to the bowl. And none thought of others they have never met, or how their lives could all contain this. So all of them, they were busy in seeing the landscape. I thought of London spread out in the sun, its postal districts passed with squares of wheat where we were aimed. So he thought of London over there. All these married couple are going to be there, or are going taking the destination to be London. And as we raced across bright knots of rail, past standing Pullmans, walls of vacant moss, and came together, and it was nearly done. This frail traveling coincidence. So then he happened to travel on a Whitsun wedding day, and then he happened to see all this, and what it held stood ready to be loosened with all the power that being changed can give. We slowed again, and as the Titan breaks to hold, there swelled a sense of falling, like an arrow shower sent out of sight somewhere becoming rain. At the end, like when they almost reached London, he got that realization that, like, the image of rain and all is brought here, it shows fertility. Marriage symbolizes fertility, he realized, and then he realized that it is only through marriage that new generations can come up. And when he thought about that, all his previous attitudes towards marriage, all that changed. And then this poem tends finally to be self-ironical, that he's ironical about his own attitude, and then he started thinking good about marriages. That's what we see in this poem. Thank you.